Before my mom got sick, all of my grandparents had passed. And at my grandmother's memorial service, I asked to speak. My grandmother had gotten saved literally days or weeks, I think days before she died.
Wow.
And I didn't find out until after she passed. And my grandfather had also gotten saved just a few years before he passed. At my grandmother's memorial service, I was trying to figure out, how do I honor my grandmother while also preaching the gospel? I didn't know how solid of a thing was, but there was just something in me that was like, I have to preach the gospel.
Right.
And I literally found a way to have a 5-minute sermon.
Oh, wow.
I timed it. It was under 5 minutes, and it tied in because she had this thing where she had these garden tomatoes. And she didn't have a garden, but if people gave her garden grown tomatoes, they were her absolute favorite. And if she let you have some, she was sharing her physical love with you. And this is before she was saved.
Sure.
And I forget exactly how I did it, but I tied something about like the seed of the tomato into the plant and the vine. And then I somehow tied that into the tree that Christ was crucified. I found some masterful way to just present the gospel in 5 minutes. And then I literally had gone to a farmer's market and got a bunch of, as close as I could get to garden tomatoes. And I had a bag of like 30 tomatoes. And I said, these are the gift for you. And it was completely honoring to my grandmother, but it was the gospel.
Fantastic.
And I don't know if it planted seeds. I don't know if anyone like in their heart, anything, but it was just this little thing, and got a few comments, especially my mom. She was like, that was... And so when she got sick, she's like, you're going to give the sermon at my service. She had been sick for most of a year, and I was living here in LA, and she was in San Diego, and I would drive down to see her constantly, like every weekend, and for at least a day or, a few hours. And on the drive back, I 9 times out of 10 would be just crying. The Mercy Me song, Even If, was my anthem during that time. And I would just, because it was like, sometimes you win some, sometimes you lose some, and right now I'm losing bad.
Right.
And I just would cry through that song, and I would cry thinking about my mom dying, knowing she was dying. And it was interesting because I didn't really cry when she died because I had already mourned her. I knew what was coming.
Sure.
And I would think ahead on what that sermon would be. So I was preparing what I might want to say. And I don't know how much of that actually made it into the sermon, but I preached the gospel at her memorial service.
Good.
And there were even things where we were having trouble getting her get the care she needed at the facility.
Sure.
I was like, okay, I need to step in. Yeah. And at first I was like, what am I going to do? How am I going to make this facility director do X, Y, and Z for my mom?
Right.
And to the point where I was actually considering hiring a private investigator to try and catch him doing something. And not that I wanted to blackmail him.
Right.
But it was almost a power play to show I could. Here's all the photos. Just treat my mom. Like, that's what was going on in my mind. And I even had friends at church go, yeah, maybe you should. It's for your mom.
Right.
And I'm like, you're literally telling me to blackmail someone so that they treat my mom better.
Right.
I'm like, how is that the love of Christ? And then I also knew that my mom wanted the memorial service there at that facility. And I'm thinking, if I blackmail him and then go, we're doing a sermon, I preach the gospel, how much of a hypocrite am I? Yeah. So I really prayed about, how do I do it?
Right.
And I went down there. I still kind of did I dressed up in my suit, and I'm like, let's have a talk. And, but I was like, I'm kind of taking over my mom's care.
Right.
And I want to, what problems are going on? Let's solidify them. I'm like, we have a list of issues. And we talked through them. He goes, oh, yeah, that's not a problem. Oh, you need that? Oh, that nurse isn't doing too well? Oh, yeah, she's off the shift. Your mom won't see her again. Literally everything that we needed, boom, boom, boom. And then there were a couple things that was like, oh, yeah, she needs to do this. And so it was accountability for my mom. But her last few weeks were a lot more comfortable because I had come in and had been peaceful. I didn't know the verse at the time, but as long as it depends on you, be at peace with all men. And even not knowing that verse, it was living out that verse. and being able to stand up in that facility and preach the gospel to some of the workers, some of the other patients, to my family. And there are people in all camps that I know that were there that were hearing the gospel in a clear, plain way that still, as I did with my grandmother, related back to my mom and honored her in the process.
Sure.
And I know it was what she wanted, and it was like those 2 years had been leading me to that.
Thank you for watching this clip from Eternal Impact. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe, and catch our full episodes every Tuesday on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Or you can check out our website at eternalimpact.show.